Hi, I'm Maggie Weldon from maggiescrochet.com, and this arm knitted scarf video is sponsored by Premier Yarns. I've done a lot of arm knitted scarves, and these are this is one of my favorites. The combination of yarn that I used in here is just amazing. I used Starry Night, which comes in 9 colors, and this is like a ribbon yarn, and it has like metallic in it in gold or silver. So I combined that with Starbella lace yarn, and then I arm knitted these scarves. And what I did was I took the ball of this and I opened it, I unwound the whole thing, and then I folded it in half. So I'm actually arm knitting with 2 strands of this and 1 strand of this, and it works out perfect. And this brown color is gorgeous, and this purple color is gorgeous too. And in the video I will show you how to make a cowl by sewing the ends together, or adding fringe if you'd rather have it as a fringe scarf. And I think either way looks great. This comes in 9 colors, and this comes in several colors, so you can coordinate the two. And links to everything are listed below. And now I'm going to go to a close-up video and show you how easy it is to make these scarves in no time. They're really quick to make. So there's a little bit of prep work before you start your arm knitting. And there are double the amount of yards on this yarn than there is in this yarn, in the lace yarn. So what I need you to do is to take all the yarn off of this, and probably work best if you're standing up. Take all the yarn off, and there's a little cardboard spool in there, and then fold this in half. And when you have both ends together, just roll this together with holding 2 strands together until you get all the way down to the folded side of this yarn. And that's what I've done here. And in my strand here, I have 2 strands rolled together as one. So that's how you get this started. So now I'll be working with 2 strands of the Starry Night and 1 strand of the lace Starbella. So next, I want you to measure off 1.5 yards for your long tail. So I've done that here. I've got 1.5 yards wound off. This is my working yarn right here. This is my long tail for my cast on right here. And then at the 1.5 yard mark, I'm going to make a slip knot. So here's my long tail, here's my working yarn. And I've got 3 strands. I've got the double strand of Starry Night and the 1 strand of lace. And I'm going to hold them all together as one. And you wrap this around like this. And then that top strand you fold across the back like this. And then you bring those strands forward. One side will have a knot side right here, and this will be the slip side. So you pull on both sides of the knot to tighten it. And then you put the loop up on your arm like this. And then you pull the slip side, which is right here, until it's just kind of loose on your arm, not too loose. Okay, so this will count as your first stitch right here. And then you want to have your your long tail over here, your working yarn here, and go like this in between the 2 of them like this, and make sure you pull up all 3 strands. And then when you pull up like this, you have 2 loops across your hand, and you go on this side of that loop, and you just go inside there and reach over and grab the other loop, let this loop drop off, and put the new loop from the long tail up on your arm like this. And then tighten everything. Tighten this, and you'll notice underneath it'll tighten. You don't want to tighten it super tight, but you'll just have a loop underneath there. And make sure all your strands are kind of, see that one was kind of wrinkled up in there, it was like this. So I wanted to pull on all 3 strands just to make sure they're all even. So I've got 2 stitches on my hand, on my arm. So now I'm going to do that again. I'm just going to reach in with my thumb and my index finger like that. I'm going to pull up. Then I'm going to go on this side of that loop, and I'm going to reach in and pull those 3 strands out like this. Let this loop drop off. Slide this loop up on my arm like this. And then again, even out all of these strands. And I want to check to make sure there's no creases in these strands here. And we're only going to cast on 4 stitches, so I only have 1 more to go. So I'm going to pull up again like this, go on this side, reach over and grab the loop that's farthest away from me, let this loop drop off, put the new loop up on my arm like this, and tighten. So that 1.5 yards was a really good length because this will just get sewn in later on. So you just ignore the rest of the long tail, and now you're just going to be working with your working yarn. And now we're going to start row 1, and to do that you hold the working yarn in your hand facing out towards your fingers like this. You just hold this and take the first loop and drop it over the working yarn like that. Just let it drop, and then put the new loop over onto your opposite hand and then tighten. And you want to tighten every single stitch like this. So I'm going to make sure again that all my strands are up on my, all my strands are up on my arm. It just seems a little bit different because of it's kind of like a tape instead of a yarn, but it'll be beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to hold this back in this hand. I'm going to take the next loop, bring it over, let it drop, and then I have a new loop now from the working yarn. I'm going to take the new loop and move it over to the opposite arm like this and tighten. Take the working yarn, hold it like this, take all 3 loops of the next stitch, drop them over the working yarn like this. Make sure there's no creases or bunching up of your strands. Take the new loop right here, move it over to the opposite arm, tighten, hold this like this, take the last loop over here, move it over to the, drop it off onto the working yarn, and then put the new loop over on the opposite hand. So if you want to stand up and make sure all your strands are coming out even, that might be easier. But this completes row 1, and your scarf is going to look like that. Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, it's so beautiful. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to get it. You just go back and forth between your arms. You hold this like this, and I've seen people hold it like this, bunched up, or like that, but it's really important to hold it like this because it keeps you from wanting to twist it. Okay, so hold it like this, drop this loop, a new loop is created right here, take the new loop, put it on the opposite arm, tighten. You want to put your yarn back in your hand just like this, move the old loop, drop that old loop down, the new loop gets moved over to the other arm like that. Okay, then tighten, and then I'm going to take my working yarn, take the next loop, let it drop, move it over to the opposite arm, and tighten. And then working yarn back here, old loop, new loop is created right here. You put the new loop over onto the opposite arm. So that's the end of row 2. So now it looks like this. Okay, working yarn here, drop the old loop onto the working yarn. The new loop is right here. Put that on your opposite arm and tighten. Working yarn here. Take the next old loop, drop it down, take the new loop and put it on the opposite arm and tighten. Take the old loop, move it over the working yarn, take the new loop and put the new loop on the opposite arm. Tighten. Working yarn in your hand like this. Take this last loop, let it drop onto the working yarn, take the new loop and move it over here. So that is the end of row 3. So now you just keep going back and forth like this until you reach the end of your yarn, and you want to stop before you run out of yarn, like 2 yards before you run out of yarn, and then I'll show you how to bind off. So keep making your scarf exactly the way I was showing you until you have 2 yards left, and then I'll come back on camera and I'll show you how to finish off, how to bind off. This is what the brunette lace, Starbella lace, and copper coin Starry Night look like. This is gorgeous. So this was the alternate color that we're working on, and we're going to fringe this one, and I'll show you a picture of that when we feature the video. So let me get this one out of the way, and now I'm going to show you how to bind this purple one off. And this came out absolutely gorgeous. I've been dragging this around, so I've been picking up things off the floor. So anyway, this is what this landed up looking like, and I love, love, love this. So I landed up with my loops on my left arm, which it doesn't matter which side you land up on for your bind off. It works either side. You could transfer the loops over to your opposite arm if you're more comfortable on the other side. So anyway, now to bind off, I need to knit 2 stitches off. So I'm going to hold my working yarn like this, go like this, and put the new loop over here, and then tighten, and then knit this one off like this, move it over here, and tighten. And then take the previous loop right here and drop it over the new loop right there. And that stitch is bound off. Then go back over here, hold my working yarn, knit the next stitch like this, move the new loop over here and tighten. And then take the previous loop right here, drop it over the new loop, and now that one's bound off. Then I'm going to take my working yarn like this, knit off the last stitch like this, move the new loop over here, take the previous loop, drop it over the new loop like that. Okay, so then you cut your yarn, and then you just pull that end through the last loop on your arm, all the way through like this, and then it locks like this. So now your arms are free, and what you want to do, if you wanted to fringe this, all you would do is take your leftover yarn and wrap this around something like a piece of cardboard or whatever. And you could also use a 3rd ball of yarn or skein of yarn if you wanted, you know, really full fringe. And you just wrap this around a piece of cardboard, and then you cut whatever length you want. Let's say I want my fringe to be about 8 inches long. So I'd wrap it around an 8-inch piece of cardboard, and then all you do is on the right side, which is where the ovals are, you fold your fringe loop in half, and you take the folded side like this and you insert it through one of the loops on the short, across the short end. And let's say I go in through these strands right here, and I push the fold from front to back like this, and then I take all the strands like this and bring it through the fold. And one thing you can do is take your end like this and bring that through also. So then you don't have to worry about sewing that end in. So you would just make your fringe all the way across your scarf, and I think this would look amazing to have this fringe like this. So that's what you would do if you wanted to fringe it. And now, if you want to sew the sides together, you would want to turn this around so that the purl side is facing up, because you want to sew it together on the wrong side. And then if your ends land up together, you can knot these together like this. Sometimes they do and sometimes they don't. So you just make a knot like that. And you don't want it to be really tight. And then you just connect the cast on stitches with the bind off stitches. And then you can do this with your hand, or you can put this on a safety pin, and then you just feed the strand and sew the two sides together, just like that. So that's how you make your arm knitted cowl. So I hope you enjoyed this, and make sure you watch all the other arm knitting videos that we have, and make sure that you subscribe to our channel, and thank you very much for watching.